Welcome to the Real Triathlon Podcast. I'm your host, Garrick Lowen, here with Nicholas Chase and Jackson Laundry.
All right, welcome back to the Real Triathlon Podcast. We've got Ellie Salthouse, I think I might know your name, and Zac Collins. Both here. They're not in Tucson. First off, I want to just squash it. Why not Tucson? That's where everyone else is like, well, I'm not in Boulder, so I'm going to be in Tucson.
Because St. George is better, but
All
we're
right.
not allowed to tell anyone about it.
Yeah,
Because
don't
it's a
come to St.
secret.
George.
So go to Tucson.
Yeah. So this is the maybe second year you've been here?
Third.
Third
Yeah,
year you've
third.
been here?
Yeah.
And you used to go to Boulder all the time?
For 8 years. Yep.
8 years.
Yep.
Zac, have you been to Boulder versus here?
I did 8 days in 2021 before the first Worlds here in St. George. And
Yeah.
then we went back for 20. No, did we get stuck there? Anyway, I've been to Boulder, and then St. George twice now. So
Nice.
yeah.
And you like it too?
Yeah, I like it. I actually like it better. I guess the only thing we're still searching for is like a 15-minute flat stretch of road. That's it. Everything else we have.
Oh yeah, I guess there isn't anything flat.
No, I was thinking
Yeah.
maybe like head to Mesquite.
Yeah. If you
Right.
actually go north past Pine Valley,
Yep.
past that's like called the Meadow. There's like an actual thing where the Mormon folks pulled all these people together and murdered them. It's called the Meadow Massacre.
Okay.
And there's
Right.
like a thing dedicated to it out there. And that road's pretty flat and it takes you to Enterprise. So
Oh,
side tangent, but just so you know, there's some flat roads, but they're not really easy to get to.
Yeah.
okay.
It probably mean we probably have to jump in the car for like 15, 20 minutes, head down the range and park
Yeah.
up and ride. So we can do it.
Yep. So Ellie and Zac have been here for a couple of weeks now, back since you've been, what has it been, 3 weeks or 4 weeks?
It's 8 weeks.
8 weeks.
I've been gone for a little bit of it, so I don't
Yeah,
remember.
it's been 8
Yeah.
weeks.
And
Nice.
within that period of time, you've just been getting ready for Fortaleza, which is in 2 weeks.
1 week.
1 week.
Yep. So we came back from championship season and we took a few weeks of recovery and then we started the 6-week build to Fortaleza, which is now in 8 days.
Okay, so that's upcoming. That's impending. That's why we just did a 2x1K time trial in the pool, and you crushed it.
Yep.
But before all that, I think there's a lot. When's the last time you guys were on a podcast?
Oh, it's been a while. I took a little podcast hiatus after World Champs because I didn't really want to talk to anyone.
Yeah,
So,
so there was a lot of no's in there.
Yeah.
Now I want to see if we can.
yeah.
So 70.3 Worlds, PTO races. You opted to do the Asian Open and then go to Finland.
Yep.
How was that?
The backup wasn't too bad because I didn't actually finish the Singapore race. So for me, the World Champs, I basically just did a sim day, like a swim and half a bike ride the week before. So it wasn't actually too bad. If I had to finish and the heat and everything, it may have been a different story. I'm not sure. I've never done the back-to-back week. But yeah, I mean, with the travel and everything, I was a little bit worried about how that would go with the 6-day turnaround, but it seemed to be fine for me. I wasn't jet lagged or anything. So
Really? It seems like a lot of folks had issues with illness in general coming from Singapore.
Yeah, it seems like a lot of the men's field got sick after their race, which was the day after ours. So they had a slightly different swim course to us because there was apparently elevated levels of E. coli at the swim exit where we exited the water. So they then moved the men to a different exit point. So maybe it was worse. I'm not sure, but
Oh man.
seems like a lot of men got sick and only a couple women. So
Yeah.
I don't know.
And,
But yeah, we were good.
and Zac, you had the actual non-athlete experience on race course. How were the logistics in Singapore? How'd that go all together?
Singapore was actually really good. In terms of like the swim, you could actually walk from so the swim start went out like a smaller rectangle, then they came back to the beginning pontoon and then dove back in and then swam like 1K all the way down to the exit. And you could actually physically walk like all the way with them alongside. And then as they came up out of the water, they would run past you into transition. And then by the time they went out on the first lap of the bike, you could like cross one block of the street, and you could like set up on a couple of corners and watch. So it was actually really good spectator wise. And then the run again, you could easily walk up and down the whole kind of waterfront area, I guess you'd call it. Yeah, super spectator friendly.
Cool.
Yeah, it was really good.
And they've have they secured that one again next year?
Yep.
Yeah, April 12 to 14. I
Yeah,
think.
April. Yep.
April sounds like it could be hot again.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it'll be just coming out of summer, so
Okay.
it'll be hot.
It'll be
Brutal.
hot.
Well, it's always hot there.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And what happened? What were you ill with for the
Yeah.
race?
So I got sick, not in the race, but the week leading into the race. We were running a tri camp the weekend before in Singapore in Sentosa Island, and I just dove in just to cool down. I wasn't even going for a training swim. I put my head under and just like without goggles, and I got some nasty eye infection, conjunctivitis, and
There's a
some
whole
sort
system.
of infection because of that, and ended up on 3 courses of antibiotics. And
But we didn't realize
Yeah.
that taking the oral antibiotics doesn't affect the eye.
Mm.
So Ellie was like hammering all these antibiotics,
Oh,
and the eye was just like, if
It's
anything,
just-
getting worse.
so bad. I
And
could
then-
barely see out of it.
It wasn't until like the race afterwards, like when Ellie, like when I was like, no, like just DNF.
Yeah.
And then we called the doctor. He came out and he was like, oh yeah, no, it's never gonna
you need a
work.
topical.
Yeah, you have to put
Yeah.
like a paste. And
So
it-
he came from the hospital
Yeah.
at like midnight after the race. And then he was like, no, you need this like topical antibiotics. And because you're racing in 6 days' time and you have a bunch of travel and you can't really rest, I'm going to give you 3 different kinds of topical antibiotics and see which one works. So I had all these like, ointments and whatever.
Zach's filling
else.
out TUEs.
Oh, yeah. What's that?
I
man?
checked them all, I promise. But it ended up that these particular ones he gave me were so strong they would literally like close my eye over.
Fully
and, like,
close it.
It was just stuck for like 3 days. I couldn't open my eye, and that was like during travel and the airport and flying.
Like he was right. He was 100% right. He's like,
Yeah.
in like 2 to 3 days it'll go down, and then in 5 to 6 it'll be completely gone.
Oh,
Yeah.
And it's like
perfect
the
timing.
morning
So
of
actually, yeah,
Worlds.
the morning of the race was the first day that my eye wasn't like red or
It was, like,
partially
normal again.
closed or anything. So yeah.
But
he was
looking
right.
back at the photos of like in the lead up to Singapore, that eye was bad. Like I was like, oh, it's not that bad, but I was
Yeah.
like, oh,
Me too. Every day I'd wake up and look in the mirror and be like, oh, it's getting better today. And no,
Getting worse.
I think
Yeah,
we were
it
just
was-
trying to convince
pretty bad,
ourselves. But
yeah.
yeah, it was a lot worse than I thought it was. I thought it was literally just a localized eye thing. And
but your
I,
glands and
but yeah, all my
it's
like
big.
glands and lymph nodes are all swollen. And I should have,
Do you still have the picture?
oh, there's
yeah,
plenty.
there's multiple
There's
pictures.
one with Pillar actually with Damo, and
Yeah.
like this is this red glowing like
Yeah.
cyborg thing.
The magnesium powder is like bright red.
All right.
Yeah.
So that's tragic.
That aside.
Luckily, it came together for Finland, and which, by the way, I'd love to get your perspective on that organization. It seems like there was a lot of chaos post race, but everything before the race was lovely. So, how did
Yeah.
you all find the getting there, getting settled,
Mm.
and time zones, all that stuff?
Yeah, I mean, we flew and arrived early in the morning, which I think was good for us in terms of like getting on the time zone, because we just stayed awake that whole day and then just got straight to bed at normal time. Yeah, and we stayed about 20 minutes away from the race because we couldn't get anything closer. But it actually ended up being quite
Perfect.
nice
Yeah,
because
yeah.
we weren't surrounded by all the race staff and athletes and, all the rest of it. We could ride on some quiet roads. Like it ended up
Oh,
being
yeah.
really
It
good.
was really nice.
So yeah, as far as the lead in went, couldn't have asked for more, really.
Yeah, it was very well run.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're the first athlete I've ever seen get 2 penalties in one race.
Special.
I think that's worth discussing. I think that's probably something that's a little stingy, but yeah. Any I'd like to know, and I think anybody would, what happens in your mind as an athlete when you're going through that and you're processing it during the race.
Mhm.
And then what does the aftermath look like? How do you get it sorted? How does a pro athlete approach trying to make sense of this? Because clearly Lionel Sanders was, his story probably overshadowed everybody's with the
Mhm.
imaginary line rule,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Crazy.
which was another crazy aspect that shouldn't have happened. But your perspective as to yours and why they were called,
Mhm.
what was going on?
Yeah, I mean, at the time, I didn't know what I received them for. I still don't have a whole lot of clarity on what I received them for, even though I've spoken to Jimmy Riccatello. I have two separate answers, basically, for what they were. So it was either slotting in or sitting closer than 12 meters. But I was the whole time asking, like, is this okay? Is this okay? I was receiving feedback from the people on the motorbike that that distance was fine, like, you know, thumbs up. So yeah, still not a whole lot of clarity. I'm going to go ahead and assume one was maybe slotting in, one was maybe drafting, and that's where there's confusion. But I don't 100% know. But anyway, in the moment when I received the penalties, I was kind of like shocked because I've never received a penalty before in a race. So obviously you hear about it in the race briefing, like, you know, this color is this, but initially you're like, oh, you know, shit, what's that for? Like, what color is that? Is that
I forgot what blue or yellow. Why are they using confusing
exactly.
colors?
Yeah.
What have I done? You know, someone going to tell me like that you did exactly this? Like, do I have to, like, what do I do now? And then I was like, wow, where's the penalty box? Like, I have no idea. I didn't really take note of where it was because I didn't expect to be going to it. And so you just keep writing, but obviously in the back of your mind, you're a little bit like more cautious.
Yeah.
Obviously not cautious enough because then I get a second one like 5 minutes later. So it's very hard, obviously. Like in my head when I got the first one, I was like, okay, 5 minutes, like, okay, I'm out of contention for a podium probably, unless something drastic happens up front.
Yeah.
But I could still like definitely get top 10, like stay calm, like keep in the game, like if you're fine. I was riding with the front group or the main group, and then there was two girls up the road.
You had the Taylor Nib moto conglomerate.
Yeah.
That was the other group.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
Taylor, and then Imogen in No Man's Land, and then the group
Okay.
that I was in. But then to go and get a second one, that was probably like the biggest blow of all. I mean, 10 minutes in the penalty box is like, okay.
That seems probably like an hour.
Oh, it felt like forever.
Yeah.
And like, I had no idea what to do. And she's like, oh, you can get off your bike, stretch, eat, drink, whatever you want to do. And I'm like, literally like just walking around, like having a chat to the 15 other athletes that got in the penalty box that day. And it was like a party in there. But yeah, it did. It felt like the longest 10 minutes of my life. And it was quite cold, which meant I was getting cold.
Legs, everything.
Yeah, like I was getting cold.
And so what makes you keep going after that? Because I don't know, a lot of athletes would just pull the plug. And what kept you going?
I think the biggest thing was anger. Like I was so frustrated and angry. And then there was like a small bit of hope in the back of my mind that like, okay, like if I didn't deserve these, I'm going to like fight them. Unbeknownst to me, I didn't know you couldn't challenge a judgment call, right? So in the back of my head, I'm still like, okay, like I'm going to get to the finish line, get to the bottom of these, find out what I did wrong. And, you know, if I can challenge them, I'm going to. So I was like, I got to do my best because these might be overturned somehow. You know, that's what I was telling myself. But at the end of the day, I was just really angry. Yeah. And so it's just, I think anger was just like fueling me to the finish line.
You know, I'm going to jump in and say from a non-professional and someone who like, I can't stand like cheating even in a board game, right? And if you've got, I guess, officials that's their job is to be able to manage a gap with their eyesight only of 12 meters. And like I've sat down and had a look at all the numbers. And if you're riding at 38.5K an hour or 40K an hour, 12 meters can like happen in, I think it's like 0.06 of a second. And like you're telling me you can judge that with the eye. So for me, if I was a professional, which I'm not and I'm never going to be, if I had received a penalty for what they assume to be drafting, I don't stop at the penalty box. Because in my mind, I'm like, all right, well, it's their judgment call against mine. And the Ironman rules are you can't appeal a judgment call. So I'm riding with the front group. Okay, I'm just gonna blow through that penalty box. I'm not stopping. Sorry guys, I ain't stopping. I'm gonna cross the finish line where I will finish. So I might come 3rd, 5th, 7th, but at least I cross the line where I would have. Whereas if I sit in the penalty box for 10 minutes and I watch like, I think it was 38 athletes go past, and then in my mind, I'm like, well, hang on a second. I'm now chasing everyone back down to cross the line in, let's say I might come 20th. I mean, Ellie ended up coming 13th.
Mm-hmm.
But there's no chance, like any corporation, like whether it's in triathlon or what, once you've served that penalty, that's it. Like you don't have a voice anymore. And so for me, like I would never, ever stop at a penalty 10. And it's probably not the right thing to do.
Well, their Ironman's response to that, they're like, well, if you just get DQ'd.
That's right.
Yeah.
So going back to Lionel's thing, and I don't know if this has been addressed, but with Lionel's ruling, if Lionel had kept racing as hard as he could, and let's say he doesn't stop at that penalty tent and he blows straight through, I know for 100% certain, like 100%, that if he crosses the finish line in 6 and they DQ'd him and then he appealed, it would have been overturned. And I know that for 100%.
That makes sense because by accepting it and penalizing yourself, you've accepted.
Yeah. And like when they say like, oh, do you accept this penalty? Man, I'm not looking at you, Moto.
No, they don't say, they say, do you acknowledge that you've received a penalty?
No way. Like, no, bro. Like, you tell me what 12 meters is. I can guarantee you no official can pull out 12 meters at the moment.
Well, I think to everybody who's ever watched an Ironman or a PTO or any broadcast, anytime the camera's ahead or behind or ahead facing the other way, there's a fly, I was just squirreled. It looks sometimes like everyone's stacked right on top of each other. It is like deceivingly close.
It's very deceiving.
And then when it goes back to the side, you're like, oh, these gaps are opening as the camera is going more parallel with the bikes. So the vantage point of the I guess referees always needs to be taken into account, and their judgment call could be 10 feet back from where it needs to be and be skewed by a foot
penalty.
So it's tough. I think that's the one area within the professional aspect of our sport that doesn't have a lot of professional anecdotal evidence to prove that this is going to help the sport. And so I think that's the only thing that really has to be addressed as the prize purses get bigger, as the acumen gets stronger.
Definitely.
Thankfully there's a couple tools that are coming in place, but even we haven't seen those be completely administered properly, so they haven't been as effective yet, like Race Ranger.
I think Race Ranger really is the answer to, like, not all the problems in the professional field, but definitely the distance and the slotting in problem. I think those two will be 100% resolved with the use of Race Ranger, but at the same time it will never replace the referees because they've got to be there to monitor the lights. It's one thing to sit, have the lights there, but athletes need to abide by them. And then they also need to be able to watch, passing, all those kinds of things, but at least the athlete will, when passing another athlete, will be able to say, okay, that gap is big enough for me to be able to slot in. And it's not up to a judgment call. You're taking out all the subjective data.
Well, and one more thing just about penalty before we move on is the referee is working with a system that has been set in place by World Triathlon, USAT, what have you. And I think that until that system gets adjusted to accommodate for the technology that is provided, because let's say the system changes, and rather than getting an instantaneous penalty that could be a ruiner of your day of 5 minutes, what if after you get 1 minute of perceived negative time by getting in too close, then that is deducted from your finish time, and you're notified by a ticker when you come in that you're 35 seconds down on the leader, even if you're next to the leader.
You start in the red for X amount of time or whatever it may be.
I mean, that's very hypothetical. That's a little bit too probably hard to manage, but there has to be a system that's going to adapt to the technology.
There definitely needs to be another set of rules, because at the moment it doesn't take into consideration like sitting in the draft zone for passing reasons, and then also being passed and dropping back out of that zone. So if you get passed 8 times in the race, I mean, you could already pass over that minute, but you've done nothing wrong. So there needs to be definitely another set of rules, and I think that will eventually come. But in terms of using Race Ranger right now for distance purposes, I think it's ready to go.
Just
for helping, like, visually, like being able to be like, okay, blue, red, or and just the different colors definitely help the distance thing.
All right. Well, I wanted to bring that up just because I know that really probably let's just be honest, it ruined your day at Finland, whether it was right or wrong, whether the judgment calls were completely erroneous. It ruined a couple other athletes' days. So I think your perspectives on that are awesome, since you've both been negotiating how to figure this out with officials and Ironman, and I'm sure it's frustrating to be subjected to something that you really had no say in.
No say. I mean, if at the end of the day, like, is it really that hard to put, if you got 5 motos, just put a goddamn GoPro on each of the motos? I mean, you can see the footage, and if, like, at least be able to appeal it, you know, just to like, you're basically like, you're going to prison. What for? You're gone. Like, that's it.
Yeah.
There's no way to prove innocence is the problem.
You're gone.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
what?
Yeah.
Yeah, and not only does like it affect like that race or the remainder of the season or whatever, like it affects like next year for me and other athletes as well. I mean,
well, your sponsorships, everything.
Yeah, world rankings, sponsorship, the ability to receive one of the PTO contracts for next season. Like it's
13th, or you maybe could have finished on the podium. You know,
it's had a big effect for my like the next year. So I'm gonna have to deal with that from
someone's
the subjective
judgment.
data of 2 referees.
And how scary is that to be an official on a motorbike, knowing that if you pull that card, that's what you're doing to that athlete.
Yeah.
But they don't. That's the problem there, and there's no recourse for them. They're getting paid whether they fail or do their job.
Yeah.
And we can't pull them up on it. Like, why aren't they in race briefing?
Yeah, why can't we talk to them eye to eye and show them?
Can you please show me 12 meters right now? Like no one's in race brief.
Why haven't I been able to speak directly to the 2 referees that gave me those penalties to tell me exactly what I received them for?
Yeah.
You know, like
I've
spoken to the head official and also the global referee for Ironman, but I haven't directly spoken to the 2 who physically held up the cards.
They're probably on witness protection.
Probably.
We gotta get you out of here, man.
Come to St. George.
She's after us.
These pro triathletes, they got a lot of tools. They can just disassemble your car, and you got no brakes. All right, so moving on from the penalties, you know, the industry, the economy, everything that we're going through as professional athletes to try to maintain not only relevance but results. How do you all feel about the climate of our sport, that you are responsible of being your own agent, your own marketing person, social media coordinator, investment strategist? I mean, you are essentially a small startup as a professional athlete, and you're in charge of everything. How are you managing that? And has this year been a tough year for all of that?
Yeah, well, firstly, I think the sport is moving in a great direction. I mean, there has been a lot of money and a lot of like media and things that are being thrown at the sport, which can only grow it and increase, you know, the number of eyes on the sport, and therefore the sport's getting bigger and more money and whatever else, which is incredible. And it's like great to be a part of it right now. But it does make all the other aspects of being a pro athlete quite challenging. And like, I'm lucky enough to have Zac that really helps me with everything and all of those things, like management coaching, all of those things that I would otherwise have to do on my own. And I know like a lot of pro athletes do it on their own. And I guess like it goes hand in hand. Like the better you do at these big high level races, the more you need all those people helping you.
You need an entourage.
Exactly. Yeah. So, I mean, you like obviously want to, you know, increase, you know, your name, and you want to like better yourself as an athlete and whatever else, but it does come with this increased pressure. So
it feels like high school sometimes, like you're just in another position of a popularity game or a clique. You're like, well, I'm gonna go train with these guys in Tucson so I can be part of the clique.
They'll mention me on Instagram, you know.
Oh, look at me in the background of Lionel's video.
The only thing that makes it really difficult sometimes is that I feel like in terms of sponsorship, that it used to be about race results, right? And as a pro athlete, you were all about race results and improving your results. But now I feel like sponsors are primarily looking at, you know, the number of followers or your engagement on social media. And I don't know, for me, it's like, I get that. I understand that brands want to be promoted to more eyes, but at the same time, like being a pro athlete, it's about race results at the end of the day. So I feel like I don't know. It's a hard game.
That I think that tipping scale of influence versus results it's been higher on the influence side initially. It's starting to level off, I bet, because teams are starting to see the volatility and there's, just because you have 500,000 followers and you're good at taking pictures with a bikini on and you're getting all these products sent to you all the time, that doesn't also equate to income because it's just free stuff. And I think that I think it's partnering with itself now. You're seeing athletes get a lot of followership and have the reputation. They're coinciding together, and so the deals are getting better for those athletes.
And that's great. Like even from like a real small scale thing, like you think if, let's say you have a local triathlon club here in St. George and you like drinking coffee, right? You go to a coffee shop and you've got a kit made and you're like, hey, for how many coffees do we have to buy each week for you to give us $3,000 so you make a return on investment? And that's the way I think from a small business perspective, and then it grows into obviously like your big brands. Like I think like your sponsors or the sponsorship companies, whether it's in triathlon or outside of, they should always be, I would think, they should always be trying to make a return on investment on the athlete.
A tangible return.
Tangible. Not like, oh, we're going to sell like, here's a Mercedes car. We're going to sell 35 Mercedes from, you know what I mean? Like it's, I think a really nice like collaboration between athlete and company I think it's what everyone strives for.
Well, if we could have that, it'd be great, but it's just so hard because there's indirect sales that I think are more dominant because it takes statistically like 3 to, or maybe it's 5 to 10 times for you to see something before you actually buy it. So maybe I saw a pillar from you first, but then I saw it from 3 others, and then I was like, I'm just going to buy some pillar. So, but I wouldn't ask you for an affiliate code, so there'd be no tracking to that. So I think that's the tough part, and that's where I also hate the affiliate partnerships because they only monitor your direct sales. And that doesn't often equate to your value. So I think it depends on the company, their ability to have a partnership. And I think that's the next question is, who is your favorite brand that you've worked with over the last few years and why? I think that's a really good question because I have got a couple that I like for certain reasons, but what does it mean to you?
I mean, I feel like the sponsor I've been with the longest is Zoot now, and there's a reason for that, and it's because I feel like they're like family to me now. Like they really listen to my opinions, they really listen to what I want, especially when it comes to like race suits or like gear that I've designed. Like I feel like there's nothing too big or too small. Like if I ask anything of them, they're like, we're on it straight away. Like whether I'm in America or whether I'm in Australia, they like go out of their way to make sure that everything's perfect for me.
That's so good.
So they're an awesome company to work with.
And it's because they're at the top of the end at Zoot. They're just really human, good people. They want to take care of you. They're not like, oh yeah, we like you as well as you're performing for us. And then sorry, we got our budget cut and you're the first one on the list.
I feel like they understand loyalty goes both ways as well, and they're like obviously extremely loyal, and that makes me want to be extremely loyal to them. And I honestly think I'll see out the entirety of my career being a Zoot athlete just because like I value that sponsorship and their like friendship so much. Like it's been great the last 5 years.
We'll pause for a second. Hey, we're just doing a podcast, just so a heads up real quick. We'll be done in probably 5 minutes.
Hi guys.
What's up?
Oh, pizza's here.
But I think it goes like it takes like what you said, it takes a little while for like that athlete company relationship to grow, because like you could be like, oh well, I love this mouse, and you're like, oh well, all right, so you sell these mouses for a year, but then you get another offer that might be better and it's a different brand of mouse, and then your followers like, oh, like
that's a tough
now do I buy
to
that?
be part of,
you know what I mean? It's hard. Like I don't know, it's a tough one because like everyone wants the biggest and best contract straight away, but if it's only a 1-year deal,
what if Red Bull came to you tomorrow and was like, all right, Ellie, we need you, we want you to do this, but we want to take over exclusivity of all your branding, and you've got to drop this and this, and by the way, you can no longer be with Zoot. But you get to wear that Red Bull badge.
I don't know. That would be a hard one.
Come on. See?
No,
I'd say I'd be like, I'm sorry, I need some.
Yeah.
Point proven though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, and I
yeah,
think,
yeah, 100%. But I also feel like with the PTO now, we can be a little bit more choosy with our
Yeah.
sponsors, and we can actually use brands that we like and align with, because the prize money and the
Yeah.
money outside of sponsorships is so much higher. Whereas, you know, only a couple of years ago, you had to like pick the biggest contract because you were relying so heavily on sponsorship dollars.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. I'd like to see the industry get, big security firms, non-endemic sponsorships that are going to be able to pay that 60 to 100K salary for all of us. And then we can actually have better relationships with the endemics, and not
100%.
because right now we're like a bike shop,
Yeah.
and the endemic sponsors are the ones who are like, we get the merchandise for you. We'll give you this much, and then, but we're going to give this person this much.
Yeah.
And so they can undercut you. They can be having deals, and then all of a sudden they can just cut you because whatever.
Yeah.
And I think with the non-endemics,
That's where
there's a different market that they're interested in,
definitely.
and it gives them a lot more flexibility, because honestly, the other aspect is their marketing dollars are way big.
bigger.
Yeah. I think also going back to the influencer part that we were talking about before with the endemic sponsors, like why would they pay one athlete $100,000 to use their product when they could literally give 50 people free product and have them, do just as good a job at influencing,
And it's more reach.
or give 10 athletes a smaller salary and have them promote it. You know, if you can have 2nd to 10th in the pro field as opposed to number 1 for the same dollar value, you'd go 2 to 10.
Way more spread.
I'd go 2 to 10, but I'd also still make sure that I'm taking care of number 1, because number 1 still has to be the face. Like, you've got to have a face, and then you've got to have support. I think that's what the feed's doing.
Yeah.
The feed has their kind of number 1 high performance team athletes,
Yeah.
and then it trickles down to their just brand affiliates and influencers. So there, I think, have the Red Bull strategy nailed down, because they want to own your head, your towel, your bottle, and they want that everywhere.
Yeah. But I also like that it has different levels, because it gives the athlete like a clear idea on what they have to achieve to get to the next level. It's like getting a job in the workplace, and then you have, different tiers that you have to achieve to work your way up and get promotions. It's the same.
It's the same. Yeah. Very similar. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's kind of the main stuff I wanted to hit you with. Aside from, what do you think about, the political climate in the U.S.?
There's happening in the US.
No comment. I don't want to get involved.
When are you going back to home in Australia, and what are you going to be doing when you're back in the, I guess, endless summer that you've created for yourself?
Yeah, so we leave the US on the 2nd of December, and we head to Bahrain for the 70.3. And then after that, the weekend following, we go to Singapore, and we're running a triathlon camp there for a couple of days, which will be fun.
Get another eye infection.
Yeah.
Jump in some
Definitely use
doo-doo.
goggles in the water. Now we have some good friends there too, so it'll be really nice to catch up with them. And then we'll go home. We should arrive probably the week before Christmas back in Australia. And then
We got lots to do.
Do you have any downtime?
Well, I mean, where Ellie bought her house a couple of years ago was like a fantastic like training area for cycling. Like, there was nothing built out there. Like, well, there was some stuff, but like really nice long open roads. And we got back last year, it's all this development everywhere. And we're like, what happened to like our 30-minute like no traffic light section?
Yeah, no,
doesn't
there's
exist.
like traffic lights, roundabouts, big estates,
Shit.
then we're
Schools and everything like this. Yeah, so we have to try and move house.
yeah.
I'm trying to find like a small little square meterage to have my mechanics area not in the garage.
Just get a sprinter van and be a mobile mechanic, man.
There you go.
I mean, I could, but
People pay you in beers.
That'll pay the bills.
and yeah, so we got to try and find a house.
Yeah.
Try and find a space.
But in terms of downtime, we kind of had 2 weeks in Greece after Uzbekistan after Challenge Samarkand. So that's kind of
that was our downtime.
that was a downtime.
Yeah, I don't know if that counts, but
Yeah. But yeah, no, we'll race a couple Aussie races, early season Aussie races, and then
Be back here in April.
I was thinking about April.
Yeah,
Yeah.
April. I think. Yeah.
we're gonna do 70.3 St. George
Good.
for sure.
Good.
Yep.
Locked in.
was part of the Ironman calendar.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that thing's pretty cool.
Oh, we're
by the way.
moving in upstairs, by the way.
Yeah.
Come on in. I need some help cleaning this house. I think I was considering 3 March Ironman New Zealand.
Nice.
Ah,
I'll spectate.
Yeah.
yeah.
I'll be the bag.
Are you gonna
the
be in New
baggage.
Zealand though at that time?
We can be.
But
Not
yeah, it's
far.
only 3-hour flight.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyways, yeah, lots to come.
Yep.
I think you all being here is amazing, and it's great that we don't have a lot of other triathletes here. It's just
Yeah.
kind of like a
Yeah.
small group, and
Cool.
I don't want it to get too crazy. So hopefully everyone at home can stay out.
Go to Tucson.
You could too, son. And thanks for coming on the show.
Yeah.
Anything
thanks
else
for having us.
that I missed? Are you, you pregnant?
Definitely not. Sorry to disappoint, Mom.
Ah.
Yeah,
All right.
All right.
definitely not.
On that bombshell, thanks. And sign up for our camp in Cozumel, or check out the details on our team at realtrisquad.com. We've got a good rate for you to come train with our professional athletes on Real Tri Squad the 7th to the 14th, or the 17th to the 24th of January.
Ooh.
That'd be
In
pretty
Cozumel. So if you're getting tired of the cold, you want to come out and hang out and have just a great opportunity to train with some professional athletes, learn, and just get out of the doldrums of indoor training. We'd love to have you. So yeah,
Or
Sounds
just
fun.
fly to Brisbane. It's not that expensive
Yeah.
or that long.
it's not even
Join us in Australia.
Yeah.
not even 30 hours of travel.
Yeah. Not even.
All
We'll
right.
give you an airport pickup.
Yeah. And peace out.
Bye.